Hi and welcome to this week's edition of Bitrix24 Live. My name is Andy and I am the support manager here at Gold Partners Interface. We have offices located in the US, in the UK and in the UAE, and we offer a whole range of different services from pre-sale support. So if you're interested in purchasing Bitrix and want to know if it's a good fit for your organisation, then we can certainly assist with that with an online demonstration to you and your team. We also offer implementation and installation services. So if you're looking at implementing Bitrix, so you have it already, we can certainly assist with the best practices for that. We also offer installation services for the on-premise version. So if you have a server in-house, we actually offer free installation if you purchase the on-premise license through ourselves. So we can install that on a server in your office or a virtual server. We also offer hosting services ourselves as well. So please do get in touch if you don't want to host it yourself for the on-premise. We can certainly help with that. And then finally, we offer premium support services. So ticketing, telephone, chat support, we offer all of that. So we are Interface, and as I mentioned, we're gold partners of Bitrix24. So we have these sessions every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And the purpose of these sessions is generally for you to ask any question that you want. If you're having any issues with Bitrix or you're wondering how to do something, please do get in touch with us and throughout this session and by dropping the question in the chat box, and I can answer them as we go along. I have both the on-premise and the cloud version online ready to show you the answers to those questions. Before we start though, I just wanted to point out that Bitrix does have a sale on at the moment. It's the Bitrix24 Back to Work special. So if you're thinking about purchasing a cloud or an on-premise, then there is up to 40% off cloud plans at the moment up until May 29th, which is tomorrow, and there's up to 20% off on-premise editions as well. So I just wanted to point that out before we started, because there's only a day left in that. It will end tomorrow and the sale can't be extended from that. So either get in touch with ourselves using the contact details on the screen, and we can certainly assist you with purchasing that, maybe any support that you would need, or you can purchase through the Bitrix24 website. So let's get started. We do have questions that come through during the week, and we usually start each session off with those questions. So some people will find them useful. They're quite common questions that we get, but like I say, if you have any, please do pop them in the box provided. So the first one, and it's a very common question that we get, and some client sites that I go on do actually have the temporary domain that Bitrix provides still active. So you can see on our system here, we have demonstration.bitrix24.com. If you've got a string of numbers and letters there, usually it would start with B24, then you might want to change that. So if you want to change the domain name, all you need to do is click and hover over the pencil here, click the pencil, and it will give you the option to change the domain name for your system. So that's quite important. It's obviously easier to remember your company name .bitrix24.com rather than a whole string of different numbers and letters. So click on the pencil here. That will then pop up with the ability to change your URL. You can only do it once, so please just be aware of that. So make sure that you have the right URL in mind that you're wanting. You can only do it once. If you do have a professional license on Bitrix or an on-premise, then you can have it on your own domain name. So you can see here demo.interface .com. It's our own domain name. If you have a professional license or an on-premise license, you can have that. You can have the system on your own domain. Otherwise, it's just going to be .bitrix24.com with the prefix of whatever your company name is. So that's quite useful, I think, to know, and it was a question that came in from last week's session. The other, in terms of branding the cloud, a lot of people ask about how can I brand it so people log in and recognize it's the company branding colors and logos. So for those of you that want to change the backgrounds, again, this is quite common, it's quite easy once you know where it is. Just go to your profile, click on themes, and you can choose a background on here. What I've seen quite a lot of people do is actually upload their own custom theme. So you can upload your own custom background that can have a little bit of your organization's branding on there. So you can upload a background image, or you can make it a flat color, background color. And based on that, you can choose whether you want dark or light text. So if you've got a dark background, choose light text. If you've got a light background, flip it obviously to dark text. So that's one way to start branding your system. The other is if you're an administrator, in your left-hand menu here, just click on settings. And then when you click on settings in here, if you just scroll down, then you will have the ability to upload a company logo. So where it says Demo 24 on our system, you can upload your own company logo and it will replace that. So it's quite useful if you and your team are using it. If you don't want the 24 in the logo, if you're just using this, you can click and remove it, and then you can change the company name here too. So those things are quite useful, I do believe, for you to start branding up your system. Okay, so those are two quite simple ones. Then we have some specific questions just about, first of all, it's going to be in the leads section of Bitrix. And it's how do you automatically dedupe a lead when it goes into Bitrix? So that question, if you just go into the CRM, so we don't want duplicates in the lead. Now we can always get rid of duplicates in leads, deals, contacts and companies. We can click on the little gear icon here, click on duplication control, and then we can determine what we want to find the duplicates on. So based on a full name, a phone number or an email, you can deselect these. I think we've deselected company name. So you can find duplicates that already exist on the system based on this criteria. If you start the scan, it will tell you how many duplicates that you've got, which is obviously quite useful. And then you can either automatically merge the duplicates or you can manually merge them. So there's two different ways to do that. So that's how you dedupe the leads that already exist in the field, in the leads. The way to, so if I just go into here, let me just explain how Bitrix works with duplications. So if I go into here and let's have a look, if I go into add a new lead, Bitrix will automatically tell you if there is so if I was to click into here and put in, maybe if I put in Andy interface.com and click out of here. So Bitrix will automatically tell you if the email address or the contact, the name, last name, email address and telephone number, if they already exist on your system already. So you can see here that we have currently 3 with the email. And if it had a contact already in the system, then again you would be able to see it. Instead of it saying leads, because that's where this email exists, it would come up with a different section for contacts. So that's how you can tell that when you're adding a lead, the entry already exists on your system. Now, it's up to you, it's completely up to you if you want to ignore it. When you click on save, it will just say ignore and save, or it will ask you to go back and change it. It's up to you. Now, if you do find a contact that already exists, then what we would recommend doing is we could come into here and then just find the contact on here. So we would search for the contact and then we would add them into here. So generally a lead is used in Bitrix for a brand new inquiry, but you might get repeat inquiries from the same contact. If it is a repeat inquiry and the contact's already in your CRM, then you can simply add them into here. Then if we click on save, you will be able to see that this lead now is associated to this particular contact. And the good thing what Bitrix does here, because it's already associated to a contact, it will not let you, so if I was to click on complete lead here, it will not let you convert that lead into a contact in a company. It will only allow you to convert it into a deal. So for those of you that are familiar with leads in Bitrix, usually if a lead is not assigned to a contact, then this option here will give you the option to convert the lead into a contact in a company, or a contact company in a deal, or the singular versions of each one of those. But because the lead is automatically associated to a contact that exists, it knows, you can see at the top up here, it knows that it is a repeat lead, so it's a repeat inquiry, and then this just gives you the ability to convert it to a deal. If you were to do that, the deal would be associated to that particular contact and it would work perfectly for you. So that's how you find out if a contact exists on your system when you are adding a new lead. If they do, bind the lead to a contact and then you can go through on here. Okay, so there are other methods as well as ensuring that you don't get duplicates in leads. One of the other ones is if you are using CRM forms, which I know most of you are, to generate your leads, then you can determine how Bitrix acts when somebody submits the form that they already exist in your CRM. So if we were to click into edit this particular website form here and just scroll down, then we can determine what we want to do with, we're creating a new lead, existing records and duplicates, we want to merge the data, we want to replace the data, or we want to allow duplicates. So generally tools that create new leads inside Bitrix, each tool will have this ability to determine what you want to happen with duplicates. Do you want to merge it? Do you want to replace? Or do you want to allow duplicates? So it's completely up to you. Generally, if it's a lead, it all depends on your business, but allowing duplicates in leads is quite useful because it will automatically pick up the contact if they exist. So that's quite handy. So please do put your questions in. I do have a few questions on here. We can only go as long as we keep getting the questions. So we're here until 11 a.m. Eastern time, so another 45 minutes. So please do fire your questions over. I had another question here that came through, and it's about funnels and tunnels. So for those of you that use deals, you might be aware that you will be aware that you can obviously create new pipelines. So pipelines are a fantastic way of segmenting your deals. So we classify deals as qualified opportunities. So we've gone through, an inquiry's come through a lead, we've qualified it in our leads process and then converted it into a deal. At that point of conversion, it asks us which pipeline do we want to drop the lead into. And what this gives you then is multiple pipelines with different qualified opportunities inside them. And for example, how we might take an inquiry, we might have an inquiry for Bitrix24 training. So we would therefore have a Bitrix24 add-on opportunities pipeline. So anything that like training, support, basically an add-on from a license on Bitrix. So we would put that kind of opportunity in the Bitrix24 add-on opportunities pipeline. Now, what you can do is, obviously your pipelines are individual sales processes to close out that particular opportunity. Now, what you can do in here is your sales funnels and tunnels. You can pass your deal from pipeline to pipeline. And a good example of that is we have, let me just delete this one on here and just show you what I mean. So we have the Bitrix24 add-on opportunities pipeline. Now, as I mentioned, that might be an inquiry for us to purchase training. So if we get through the whole sales process, all these stages here, and we get to the closed and won stage, then what we could do is we can drag on the little dot and actually move it to our Bitrix after sales pipeline. Because what that would then enable us to do, it would enable us to add some automation in the after sales pipeline to automatically drip feed content to that particular client who has taken out a particular product or service. And we can send them maybe a thanks email straight away. And then maybe in 1 week's time, just have a checkup email, or 2 weeks follow-up, sorry, we've got on here. Have a checkup so we can send an SMS message out or an email out automatically, just making sure that they're all right and maybe drip feeding them some more useful content. And then again, we could automatically move it up. So it just gives you an automatic follow-up process. Now, the question that came with this was that once you have got the deal within the add-ons pipeline and you close out that particular deal, this funnels and tunnels duplicates the deal. So it makes a copy of the deal and then puts it into the Bitrix after sales pipeline. The question was that the person did not want that to happen. They did not want a duplicate deal being created. So it's quite easy to change this. And what you can do is, if I just come out of the funnels and tunnels here and then click into our automation rules option, you'll be able to see that closed and won, we now have a copy deal. Now, because we used the funnels and tunnels and moved it from add-ons pipeline and dropped it into the after sales pipeline, it automatically adjusted our automation rule and added this block into here. So if I click into this one here, copy deal, you can see we have pipeline, initial stage, so move to pipeline, Bitrix after sales, which is what I dragged and dropped it into, and we can start it at an initial stage. Now, this will therefore mean that you've got a closed out and won deal in the Bitrix24 add-ons pipeline, and now you've got exactly the same deal, a copy of it, in the after sales pipeline. If you don't want a duplicate, instead of using the funnels and tunnels, you can click on Add, click on For Employee, and click on Change Pipeline. It's not Copy Pipeline, it's Change Pipeline. So you can see in here that we have Bitrix After Sales Opportunities. Click on Save, and it's just, that's all we're doing here. We're just changing it from duplicating the deal and moving it into, and making a copy of it into the after sales, but instead we're going to move this deal, no duplicates being created, and we're going to move it to there. So that's two options for you. It depends on how you want your flow to go from your pipeline to pipeline. But the benefit of these pipelines while we're in here is you obviously can set for a particular kind of opportunity your stages. A lot of people have pipelines for different countries they may sell to. You might have sales teams working on sales for different countries, so you can create pipelines for those. And you can see in our after sales opportunities, then you can see in here that we have drip fed content for thanks, and then we've got a change stage automatically at the end, and we've got a 2-week follow-up, send SMS, and in 14 days time we send the SMS, and then in 14 days time we change the stage to the 4-week follow-up, and then we can add another communication in here. So it's a really handy way of ensuring your customers get an after-sales care process after they've purchased from you. I just got a question. Would you recommend using pipelines for non-sales processes like human resources? Thinking of the possibility of using CRM forms to receive CV applications and manage them, for instance. You certainly could do that. The good thing about pipelines is that you can restrict access to them. So it might be that you yourself as an admin could create maybe a HR pipeline in your deals and only restrict access to that. I'm going to come to the permissions in a little bit. We had a question come through about permissions. But potentially you could do that. I've seen it where people submit the CRM form, it creates a lead, for example, and then in the automation, I think we may have covered it in last week's session. In the automation, we had a condition to check where that lead was generated from. If it came from your HR form or your CV form, for example, then it only performed that action, and then it immediately deleted the lead after, so it didn't stay in there. So it's another way. If you've got the on-premise, then you can create your own forms and use the API to do pretty much whatever you want. But yeah, what you said there, yeah, that is potentially that would potentially work, because in your CRM forms, you obviously can choose if it's going to create a deal. Then you could you can choose which pipeline it goes into. So yeah, it's quite handy. Bitrix recommends for small teams to use CRM without leads instead of using it only with deals. What are your thoughts and recommendations? It's going to depend on what your business is, in all honesty. So for those of you, again, that aren't aware, if you don't use leads, you're absolutely right. You can turn them off. Bitrix has a mode called CRM mode here. So I've gone into leads, got into CRM mode. And if you want to use a simple CRM, you can see here, deals and contacts, no leads. So you can turn them off if you want to. My personal preference is, I think leads are a fantastic way of ensuring that your data is clean inside your CRM. And what I mean by that is, obviously all your inquiries, in terms of inquiries from Facebook, inquiries from Instagram, using the tools that Bitrix has, inquiries from live chat, CRM forms, all get fed into the leads. It's a good thing to happen, because obviously all those inquiries in a normal world aren't going to be clean. In terms of you're not going to win every lead. So the idea of your lead should be that you are qualifying them through a series of different statuses, and then with the end goal of either converting them, and when you convert them, so if I come out of this one, because this one's got a contact already assigned, but when you convert them, you can decide what you're going to do with them. And if you create a deal and a contact, if you just work with the end user, so if you just sell to the end user, that's what you would generally do. If you work with companies, you could create deal, contact in a company, or a deal in a company. But it just means that the data that's getting created inside your CRM is clean. It's gone through a process where you know that the person has made some kind of positive sign about purchasing. So having that contact is going to be useful in your CRM. And then, like I say, we classify deals here as our qualified leads. So it can be useful in terms of doing it that way. So it's like it's like a vetting system, isn't it? That you can filter out the bad leads from the good leads. And then only in your deal pipeline then do you have those, they've actually gone through that process of being qualified, and you know this is the good stuff in here that you should be able to, sorry, if I click on Kanban, this is the good stuff that you should be trying to close. You've got more of a chance to close this than you have if you just use deals and then you're just firing in random leads that have been generated from different sources. That would be my recommendation. That is only a recommendation. So that's how I would do it. That's how we do it, and that's how, I mean, I train quite a lot of people each week on Bitrix, and the general consensus is leads are pretty useful for that, and obviously, but not, they're not for everybody. So have a think about if that would be a good fit for you. I had another question with regards to whilst we're in leads. While I was talking about leads, it actually came through yesterday, and it's quite a simple one really. When you do an import, you can specify who the responsible person is when you're doing an import in your spreadsheet. If you don't specify who that person is, then every lead gets assigned to the default person that you set in here. So what I mean is that if you click on import, you have there you are, the responsible person default is Max Smith, who I'm logged in as at the moment. So if you don't put a responsible person column in your import, this is who is going to be responsible for them. And the problem was with what they wanted to do, they forgot about that, and then they wanted to bulk update the responsible person. You can easily do it. You just need to create the filter for all the leads that you want to find. So let's just say I want to add a new field for the responsible person here. Maybe I want to find all the leads that are Max Smith. I click on search, and then it pulls me up with this list. Now if I click on the checkbox, what that does is allows you to bring in this box at the bottom. Click on select action, click on assign responsible person, and then if I was to click on Joe Smith, click on apply, you can see that would then, if I take out the filter, it would then update all the leads to Joe Smith. So that's how you do it. Obviously, you can just use this filter to filter out on there. It's quite useful to do. The same method goes for contacts, companies, deals, quotes and invoices to bulk update the responsible person. Got a question. Is there a version of Bitrix24 in which I have more than one license? I mean that I can run more than one company with it. So I guess the only out-of-the-box solution for that would be the enterprise solution. So we have a number of clients that use the enterprise solution. I mean, it is more expensive than any of the other systems, but it just allows you to create a division of Bitrix for each company. So we have companies that maybe have 4 or 5 different offices in different global locations. They want a version of Bitrix for each one of those. Then you can create a division in Bitrix on the enterprise, and then you can have one global system that you can post out global news on as well, that everybody's a member of. I mean, it is, like I say, it is quite a bit more expensive than any of the other Bitrix versions, but that is what it is for. It's the enterprise edition that allows you to have different Bitrix divisions per, in that case, region. So that is the only solution. The good thing about the enterprise is as well that it's all managed under one Bitrix, so it's not like having individual versions of Bitrix. It's not like having 10 cloud sites. Everything is managed all under, so all under one control panel on the on-premise. So this is an on-premise version of Bitrix. The on-premise version has a control panel, and you can essentially control all 10 of here, all 10 sites. So if I was to click on settings, click on websites on here, you can see in here that we can have multiple Bitrix systems in one. So hopefully that's useful. Is it possible to make CRM form several fields in one row, or is it just one field per one row? I think in general it's just one field per one row. I'm not sure if you could apply your own CSS to make it a little bit different. I think you could, because what you can do is if we click into edit in here and scroll down to more, you would be able to add your own CSS styles. So you do have essentially an ID associated to the field that you create. You could find it if you know a little bit about development. You can just click on inspect and find the ID of the field, and then you could add your own CSS code to do negative margins and move them across and things like that. That would be one way. Bitrix don't offer you a grid structure as such at the moment, but it is quite a good idea, and it's probably something that we should raise with Bitrix, because if you had a grid, I think I used recently on a WordPress, I think it was Gravity Forms. Gravity Forms comes with a grid format, and that was quite useful, and maybe Bitrix should implement something to have CSS grids within here. So maybe we put that forward to Bitrix. Hopefully that would be quite useful for a lot of people, because yeah, I understand what you're asking. It would be nicer to style the form up in multiple columns, wouldn't it? I think that would be good. I've got another question. How can we create a salesperson call made on a daily basis, or new company updated on a daily basis? On a monthly basis, sorry. I'm not 100% sure what you mean with regards to a new company updated on a monthly basis. I mean, the reporting in Bitrix is located in 3 places. I mean, in terms of the reporting, you've got the CRM analytics, where you can report on leads, deals, invoices, and then you can also target. But that's not going to give you who's updated companies on a monthly basis. I mean, you could do calls. I mean, calls are activities. So they do have My Activities on here, and you can specify the number of calls and use the filter at the top up here for the responsible person for this month, and you'd be able to see how many calls that particular person had made. That's in the My Activities option on here. And it's also available if you go into the CRM, click into activities at the top up here, and then you can use the filter for the responsible person. And if you use for the type, again, you could say how many outgoing phone calls that person has made in a particular month, time, date, region. I just don't think you'd be able to do how many new companies have they been updated. I mean, potentially you could. If you went into companies, you could use the filtering tool, and you could say there is a modified field in here. I'm not sure where it is, but there is a modified field, and then you would be able to find out when it was last modified and who it was modified by. So you can see modified by here, and you can see modified on. So it might be that you had modified on this month, modified by Max Smith, click on search, and it would provide you with if Max Smith had modified that particular company this month. And then it will give you a list of all the companies. That potentially could work for you. The other area that we've got for reporting is in More and Reports. It might not be in More on yours, it's just that we've shuffled around some of the different reports on here. But if you add a new report, you have the ability to create a report on the activity, invoices, leads, products is a good one, and deals. So you might want to have a look and explore around in that form of reporting. If you don't find the reports that you want in Bitrix, sometimes that happens. There are some applications in the application store on here. Just click into applications, click into CRM, click on search, and then this will pull up some of the options for reporting. So you have advanced reports. There are all sorts of tools in here that you can use if Bitrix is coming up short in maybe one of the different areas. We had another question that came through just about how do you pause the automation until a task is completed. So this is quite a useful one. And so whether it's in leads, whether it's in deals, you have automation on both of these different types of entities in Bitrix. And what you can do is if you go into the automation rule, now you do need for this, you do need a minimum package of the standard license, I do believe. And what you can have here is if we click on configure automation rules, you'll straight away notice if you can do this on your package. So you can see I have edit in workflow designer. If you have a little padlock next to that, then it's not going to be available on your license. You would need to upgrade. So what we're looking at here is pausing the process until the task, internal task in Bitrix, is completed. And what we can do here is if I just click on edit in workflow designer, so this gives us the little workflow editor tool that comes with Bitrix. It's a little bit more comprehensive than the automation. But the question was, how do we pause it? So if we use in the interactive settings here, if we pull up the task block, or alternatively you can click on the down arrow, hover over there and click on task. If you click on the little gear icon, what it has is pause process while task is running. Change that to yes. Then what that will mean is that anything that is after this, so if we said testing, and then if we add some users in here, Max Smith, and then we can give it a description, end date. We can add checklists in here now if we wanted to, which is really, really good. I would always recommend binding it to the CRM entity it's created from, so that will ensure that the task stays in the deal itself. And you can actually put it into a work group as well on here. So what will happen here is the deal will be moved into this particular stage. It will create the task and associate the task to that particular user and that particular deal, and then it will stop. There will be nothing else will happen. Now only when that task is completed will it then move on and carry out the update probability to 25%. So we could add quite a lot of automation in here, and it's quite a useful way to ensure that a process moves along when specific items have been finished, especially if you're quite heavily involved in using tasks in Bitrix. Then it's going to be quite good for you because the user will, if I just click on save, so what will happen is if I move a deal into this particular one, click on here, you can see it loads up. You can see on here that we have the task. So the task is automatically being created. If I was to finish that, then it would then update the probability field. So it wouldn't update it until this task has been marked as finished. So when I clicked on the bind to CRM element, that's what it means. It just associates it to the deal. If you didn't do that, the task would not appear in this planned activity section on the right hand side. So hopefully that helps. I want to make an automation to change the responsible person by a certain stage to the person that moved the lead to the deal. So I guess I probably have to explain this because it might take quite a lot of time to show you. But what you could do is you could have an automation in the lead. So if we click into here, click into our automation rules, we could click on configure here, and what we would do is edit element. Edit element. So what this block allows you to do is edit any field that exists inside the lead itself. So at the moment we have lead name. Want to remove that? What we could do is have a custom field for converter. And that custom field could be bind to user. And then what we would do is, I don't think we have an employee field in here, so let's use the responsible person. And then we could select and then roles, and then you can click modified by. So what that would mean is that when somebody moves the lead into job 1 in our stage, it would update the responsible person to the person who moved it. Okay. If you didn't have the responsible person, I would recommend creating a custom field for person who converted. And then what you could do there is then you could that will then pass that through into the deal, and then you can have an automation rule on the first step of the deal to update the responsible person to the converter. So that's how you would do it. You would pass it from one to the next. So you can get quite complex. It just takes a little bit of thinking about sometimes, because you can edit the deal that it's in, edit the element that it's in. Sorry. So using the edit element, we can update any fields inside Bitrix, but just by moving it to that, and then it will pass through, and then we can use it when we're in a deal. So I recommend testing it out, having a play with that. I think it's definitely quite a useful tool. So one of the questions that came through earlier just was with regards to some permissions, but we did have it. Somebody has asked me to explain how permissions work in the CRM, because obviously it is a massive area of Bitrix that, especially when you're in leads, you don't want other sales agents to see other sales agents' leads. The same with deals. I think it was when we spoke about pipelines earlier. You might not want people to see a particular pipeline. So the one that we were speaking about earlier with regards to submitting a CRM form, and that CRM form content went into a HR pipeline, it might be that you want to restrict everybody other than the HR team to that specific pipeline. And you can do that with the CRM permissions. So the first thing to point out of how Bitrix CRM works in permissions is that it will always run from the responsible person of the entity. Okay, and what I mean by that is in a lead, you have a responsible person. So we have Joe Smith. We bulk updated everything to Joe Smith earlier. If I want to change a responsible person of a lead, I can just go into, click change, and I can click Matt Smith. So every element in a lead, every lead has a responsible person. It's exactly the same for a deal. Every deal has a responsible person. Same for contact, companies, quotes, and invoices. You can only have one responsible person per element. Okay, so as long as you know that, that's where what I'm going to go into now is where those permissions are run from. So if I click into settings, click into permissions and click into access permissions. So the first thing that you'll need to do, Bitrix does come with some default roles, but I would recommend creating your own. So your roles are down the right hand side of this particular page. Click on add, and then you're presented with the entities down the left hand side. So every module as such inside the CRM, from contacts, companies, all your deal pipelines. So again, talking about that HR pipeline, we might have the HR pipeline highlighted here. Quotes, invoices, orders if you're using Bitrix24 sites, CRM form, website widget, sales targets, exceptions, and automations as well. So every entity, and then we have the ability to read, so the ability to see a contact in this case, the ability to add a contact, or update a contact, so edit, delete, export, and import. Okay, so those are the things that you can do on a particular contact in this case. Everything's the same in here in terms of the permissions that you can have. So if we click into here, click on personal. So personal will mean if you assign this role, I would only be able to see the contacts that I am responsible for. I wouldn't be able to see anything else. If I clicked on personal and department, then that would mean that I would be able to see all the contacts that I'm responsible for, but I would also be able to see all the people's contacts that are in my department. Your departments can be seen in the employees tab in the left hand menu. So if I click on employees here, that's into the company structure. So in this case, the marketing department, I can see Jack Smith and I can see Max Smith. Okay. So if I was assigned a role that had personal and department, that would mean that Max and Jack would be able to see each other's contacts. Okay, so it just means that. And it's definitely a good way for the person that asked just about splitting your system. This is a good way of doing it in the CRM. So if you've got multiple office locations, you can set up your company structure in that kind of way to separate your branches of your company. You could also have personal department and sub-department. And in here, so that would mean that Katie Harrison can see everything if she was assigned this role. And then we have all open and all. So you can see everything. So those are the different options that you have in here. Obviously, you can go as granular as you want. So you can do it on contacts, companies, deals, and every deal pipeline. But it might be that you want to restrict access to when a deal reaches a particular stage. You can do that. There's no problem with that. So it might be that you see personal and department, and then when it gets to invoice, then this person who was assigned this role will no longer be able to see that particular deal when it gets to the invoice stage. So again, that's quite common. I've seen it many times before. The minimum amount of roles that you should have is 2, I would say, as a recommendation. Definitely have a role for administrators. I think Bitrix comes with that role already. And definitely have a role for your normal employees. The reason I say this is because you probably are going to want to set a role for all your employees to have export as denied. It just mitigates the risk of somebody in your organization going into your leads, exporting all your leads, and then leaving the company. So it's quite important to block access to getting your private information, private leads, private contacts, private companies out of the CRM. So that's the bare minimum that I would recommend. Click on export and make sure this one's denied. For admins, you can set that to obviously a personal and department, or all. But again, it's just a recommendation just with past experience of what we've seen, having that set to denied is definitely going to be useful. So please, we've got 10 minutes left, and we only have one more question, and then we'll might have to wrap it up slightly early, but we've only got 10 minutes left. And the question, we may have already answered this one actually, how can we ensure that at a glance the salesperson knows whether a lead is an existing client or not? We would like to implement some sort of tagging system. Well, generally, I don't think you need to implement a tagging system, but you can do if you want. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But in general, if you want to see if it is existing contact or not, I do believe you'd be able to see it if you had contact selected up. I think that would work. Click on apply. And if we hover over here, yes, it would. So as we had a look at the leads earlier on, I mentioned that a lead could be a brand new inquiry from a contact that doesn't exist in your CRM. If that's the case, you just enter in the first name, last name, email, phone number, whatever data that you want to collect. But if you find that when you're typing it in that it is already a contact, then you can add the contact into the client field here. So we added Thomas on this particular lead, and that's how you would know if a lead is associated to a existing contact in your CRM. The other way of knowing is it will always say repeat lead. Okay, that's the other way of knowing. So you can see here that we can clearly see this one, and this one, and under each we have repeat lead. It's generally because a lead has been created for that particular contact before, and it's a repeat inquiry. So those are the two methods. I'll probably just finish up on just with regards to tagging. If you did want to tag leads, you just create a custom field. It's a good way of doing it. Click on settings, and I would always recommend, I mean, there's two options of tagging. You could provide a pre-configured list of tags, so you don't let them type in their own tags. Click onto, so I'm sorry, I've gone into CRM settings, form and report settings, and then custom fields. Then in a lead, if you just click on fields, I like doing it this way just because, we've got two tags actually already. I like doing it this way just because I can then see all the custom fields that have been created before. You're probably going to be aware that if you do create a lead in here, you can actually add a field on there. So you can see actually we have a tags custom field and we have a tags list. So these two have already been created. You can see the type is a list and the type is a text. And we also have another tags field that is a text, but it's a multiple field. So these are the three, I must have done this before. These are the three ways of being able to add tags. So let's go into this particular one, and I'll just show you what these look like. So let's create a section actually on the leads. Tag in options, and click on select. So this is going to be a multiple string, this is going to be a predefined list, and this is going to be a singular string. So let's start from the bottom. A singular string, obviously you would need to go, you could say tag is, let's just say CRM projects. So you would have to type in the string, okay? It's not ideal. I would not recommend doing it this way, in all honesty. The other one is giving them a pre-configured list. I added the design of the list as a checkbox. That's quite good because you force the user to select one that already exists. The other one, and this is probably the other way of doing it, so I can click on CRM, but because I selected this field type to be multiple, I can click on add, and then I can add my own tags in here. So that's the other method of being able to do it. If I was to click on save in this, then you would be able to see in here, and then in here. So those are the three different options. I would recommend one of these two. My preference is the tags list, because you can force them to select one. And then what you can do is in here, if we're using the filter, you can then search for particular ones that have been tagged CRM. And that's what you're using it for. You're using it to use for a filter. If we have contact with multiple numbers, like 2 mobile numbers, then how do we enter it? If we create a new field for contact numbers, then how do you do it? So it's quite easy, really. You should be able to add multiple contact numbers for a contact. So if I went into Joe Smith here, and you can see we've got a phone number, you can just click on the add and then specify whether it's a work, mobile, fax, home, pager. So if I wanted to do that, and what that allows you to do, especially if you use Bitrix telephony, then again, you can just then save it and they all act as numbers. I can click on it and it will start dialing out of Bitrix telephony. So just a little add button. And the same with emails. If you've got multiple emails, you can click on add and add multiple emails, because they might have a personal one. We have it for newsletters and other. So hopefully that's useful to you. I think we've run out of time, in all honesty. So just a little bit, for those of you that missed the intro, my name's Andy and I'm the support manager here at Intraface. We're gold partners of Bitrix24 and we're located in the US, the UK and the UAE. And we have a whole range of different services, from pre-sales support if you're looking to buy Bitrix, through to premium support if you're using it and you need assistance. Just before you all leave, if you are looking at purchasing Bitrix in the foreseeable future, then I would recommend having a look at is Bitrix has a sale on. For anybody that's wants to purchase the on-premise, there's currently up to 20% off until the end of tomorrow. And if you're looking at purchasing the cloud, there's actually up to 40% off cloud plans up tomorrow. So it's the Back to Work Bitrix24 special. If you are interested, you can purchase on the Bitrix24 website, but you can also give us a shout and you can purchase through us. The exact same discount applies. If you're looking at the on-premise, purchasing it, we will install it for you on your server, included in the license cost. So, or if you're looking for somebody to host it for you, then we can discuss the different pricing options for that. But we're here to help you wherever we can. We have these sessions every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So just consider it as like an hour's free live support, just for me to show you live on screen. And we also have webinars on a Monday focusing on particular areas. So you just need to go to Bitrix24 and then there's a webinar link in their footer. Click on that and you can register for specific webinars where we focus on the CRM, telephony, the Bitrix24 sites, and so on and so forth. And all these are recorded as well, just to finish up. All these are recorded, so you can always replay these. If you saw something on here that you want to use at a later date, you can just make a note of which one it was, and it's on the Bitrix24 YouTube channel. So thank you very much for joining today, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye for now.